Hello, my name is Bailey Wright. I work as the District 1 4-H program specialist, and we're going to do a quick overview and training on educational presentations and the public speaking contest. These are two of my favorite contests, and we're going to do them a little bit differently this year here in District 1. We are going to have these done pre-recorded, so you record your educational presentation or your public speech at home or maybe at your extension office. You video it, a video of you saying it, presenting it, and then you will upload it to YouTube, and then you will submit the YouTube link with your registration. So for district, you never even have to leave your house. There's not a specific date and time that you have to be somewhere to compete. We will just judge the YouTube videos that y'all submit. So we're doing that for a couple reasons. Number one, we all know there's some different guidelines and restrictions that we need to follow this year. We also hope it will increase participation and just be a different opportunity that maybe you weren't able to do in years past because of conflicts. So we think this is the perfect year to try and do an educational presentation or the public speaking contest. Another reason I really like these contests, aside from the skill sets that you're going to gain from this, how to research, speaking skills, presentation skills, those are all great skill sets. But I also love these contests because they can benefit any of your projects. Not only if you do this contest will you start a public speaking project, but it can also strengthen your livestock projects, your health project, your fashion and interior design project, your consumer project, whatever 4-H project you already have. You can make a presentation or a speech about something in that, a topic in that project, and then strengthen that project as well. But I'll stop talking and we can dive in to really how these contests work. Okay, so getting started is super simple. The first choice you need to make is which is going to be better for you, an educational presentation or the public speaking contest. The second step is picking a topic and then writing what I call a script, and then just adding the final touches. So those are the 4 steps we're going to go through today. Okay, number 1, educational presentation versus public speaking. So with an educational presentation, you can do it solo, by yourself, or with one partner. With public speaking, you do it by yourself. You can't have a partner. And sometimes that works better for someone to be able to practice on their own and not have to coordinate schedules with a partner, but you could also do that for educational presentation. An EdPres, in my opinion, is a little more personable. I still like to write a script and have it somewhat memorized, but you can ad-lib more with an educational presentation. And it's more of a how-to, explaining how to do something, or yeah, it's really how-to. In an educational presentation, you're educating others. Whereas public speaking is pretty formal, in my opinion. I think it's very memorized. You obviously don't want to sound too memorized, but it is memorized. It's very structured, and it's a persuasive speech. With educational presentation, you can have props and visuals. So PowerPoint, poster boards, props that help you demonstrate something. With public speaking, there's no props, there's no visuals. So you're not using a PowerPoint or posters or any sort of props. It's truly just what I like to call a podium speech, but there's no podium. With educational presentation, there are multiple categories, and I'll talk to y'all about those in just a little bit. So you kind of choose from the categories, and that's where your route will go. In public speaking, it's not broken out by categories. Obviously, both of these contests are broken out by age group, junior, intermediate, senior. But public speaking, it's just one category, and it's a free choice of topics. So you're going to be let's say you're doing something about bullying. Someone might be doing something about water conservation. And those are obviously two topics that probably go best with our older kids. Those were just the first examples that came to my mind. So you're going against people who maybe aren't doing a similar topic to you. For me personally, I my speaking style, I'm not very good at memorization and being super formal. I like having props and visuals to help me. So my personality would go more towards educational presentation. But some people's personalities, they don't like to ad lib. They like to be very structured and know exactly what they're going to say and when they're going to say it. And so maybe if you're that person, public speaking would fit you a little better in terms of contest. So making the choice, that's step number one. Step number two is choosing your topic. So first and foremost, it needs to be age appropriate. So for example, how to wash your hands or the importance of hand washing probably isn't something that's age appropriate for a junior in high school or for the senior level. But that's great for elementary level, for juniors or maybe even intermediates. It's age appropriate. Whereas human trafficking probably isn't something that's age appropriate for our juniors and intermediates, but it is something that would be more age appropriate for our senior level. Relevance and making sure it's a current issue. I think both of the examples I just gave are probably pretty relevant this year, especially hand washing was probably one that would be overdone, and I might steer y'all away from that just because I think a lot of people will do that one, but it is really relevant. The other example I gave was human trafficking. That's also extremely relevant. Let me think of something that would be irrelevant. This is silly, but it's the only thing I can think of. How to use a typewriter obviously is irrelevant and not current. And then the third thing I would suggest when you're choosing a topic is make sure it's something that you're passionate about. In this case, probably your kiddo. If we have adults watching this, that they're passionate about, and it's something that they're wanting to research and make a speech or make a presentation about. Because if they're not passionate about it, it's probably not going to be a very fun contest for them. You also want it to be something that's interesting to you, to the contestant, but it's also going to be interesting for the judges and the audience as well. Okay, step number three, writing your script. I think this is the part that scares people. And even though I said educational presentations can be a little ad lib, a little more relaxed, I think especially for our youth and especially those younger youth, having a script that they can learn and then maybe add things to, or at least have the bones of the presentation will help them. And like I said, public speaking, I think your script probably needs to be pretty word for word. But here's the basic outline I use in both scenarios. Although your content's going to be a little different depending if you go ed pres or public speech, this is kind of the outline I use. Something catchy at the beginning that has to do with your topic that you've chosen. Then your intro, introduce yourself, what county you're from, the title. If it's an ed pres, I like it to be the true title of your educational presentation. If you're doing public speaking, maybe it's not necessarily a title. I think it still can be a title, and that's fine. Maybe you're just more introducing your true topic. Maybe I almost want to say your mission statement. And then 3 key points. And those key points don't necessarily have to be, I mean, to me they are. They're the 3 key points that you're going to hit, or the purpose. A lot of people, if you've been around and done this a few times, people who are experienced in writing these say that you have to introduce a purpose to your presentation or to your speech. And usually there's kind of 3 key points that go with that purpose. And then you hit your points. That's kind of the body of your speech or your presentation. And then I think you summarize it all up, summarize your 3 points, almost similar to your intro, introducing your 3 points without being repetitive. You summarize them and then have a catchy closing, maybe a closing in ed pres. I would say a closing that kind of ties it all together and it's cute and catchy, whereas public speaking, I would say maybe it's a closing that really leaves the audience and the judges thinking, leaving them almost with a question that makes them make their choice, if that makes any sense, since it is a persuasive speech. Okay, and the final touches in my mind are props and visuals. If you're doing educational presentation, I think for visuals, you either go PowerPoint or you do posters that you flip through. And I almost think less is more on that. I would not want a 20 slide PowerPoint or 20 sets of 20 posters in your set. I think that gets tough. To me, the visuals there are used to help keep you on track with your speech. Not something, of course, that you want to read off of or for it to be distracting to the contestant who's giving the presentation, but that helps you know where you're at in your presentation and keeps you on track and maybe reinforces your key points. And of course, adding confidence. That, I think, is the biggest thing with both of these contests, having a speaker up there who feels confident in what they're saying and how they're saying it. Eye contact is a big one, especially with our littles. Sometimes they struggle on that eye contact, which brings me to a point. I get this question quite a bit, especially with our juniors and intermediates. Are they allowed to have note cards? They are allowed to have note cards, and I'm not going to discourage that for juniors and intermediates, but in my opinion, when I'm a judge for this, if a junior or intermediate maybe has a couple fumbles, but they didn't use note cards, they tried to do it off of memorization or on the fly, I'm going to give them credit because they didn't use note cards. That takes a lot of confidence and a lot of guts to get up there as a junior and intermediate and try and do it without note cards. But I don't think it's bad to have note cards for those juniors and intermediates if that's what makes them feel confident, and that's going to be the most positive experience for them is to use note cards, then okay. Seniors, I absolutely discourage note cards. I think it needs to be memorized. Clear pronunciation, of course, is a big one that you can teach and practice. Volume, we see that a lot. Sometimes you get nervous and you talk too quiet, or sometimes you're trying to be so confident that you're yelling in the room. You don't want to do either one of those. And to me, these next things are the things that really take it up a notch in both contests. Emotion, tone, fluctuation in your voice, hand gestures, facial expressions, posture, body language, especially in public speaking. I think to really captivate the room, because you're not using any visuals or props, your body language, your gestures, your posture is super important. And I think with educational presentation, to keep it from just being too monotonous, you have to use emotion and tone and fluctuation. Okay, so we're going to get off of this PowerPoint. Bear with me for a minute, and there's a few things I want to show y'all. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see my internet browser. This is the District 1 4-H website. I always tell y'all, if you're looking for resources, rules, guidelines on District 1 4-H contests, please go to our District 1 website first. We do things a little different sometimes in the state. So you go 4-H events and contests. You scroll down to our spring. And you see we've already got the letters up for this. So you can click here. If you were wanting to do educational presentation, it's going to take you to our letter. And it's going to give you all the rules. Here are the topics that you can choose from for educational presentation. It shows you more resources and scorecards here, which I'll take you in just a minute. This is actually the same letter. If you would have clicked public speaking, it would take you to the same letter. So that talks about educational presentation. Then we come down to the public speaking contest. It gives you the time limit, 5 to 8 minutes. The max for EdPres is 12 minutes. It tells you again, no visual aids or props. Scorecards for that can be found here. It talks to y'all about the virtual format. And I do tell y'all where you can find other resources. Let's click on some of those. This is one that I really like for educational presentation. I think it goes more in depth on kind of what I hit on in that PowerPoint. So I definitely think reading these would be a good idea. Let's go to public speaking. I'll be honest, there's not a ton of resources for the true public speaking contest, but I think seeing the scorecard is extremely helpful and can help you kind of know what to build your speech off of, as well as that outline that I gave earlier. For educational presentation, there are a couple more things I want to show y'all. First, here's an example. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it is almost 9 minutes, And I will tell y'all, this is a state-winning educational presentation in the senior category, obviously. So this is a very, very good one. It's pretty advanced. Don't let this one scare you, but I think it's going to hit on those key things that I talked about in the, oh man, words are hard for me today, in the outline of presentation. And then I think it's something that you could use for the public speaking contest as well. It's going to go through a catchy opening, an introduction, their purpose, and kind of their 3 key points they're going to hit on. It'll take you through that, a summary, and kind of a cute little closing. This is a good one. I think they do a great job in terms of being confident, eye contact, emotion, fluctuation, having some things that really draw the judge in there. It's a really good educational presentation, and I like their PowerPoint as well. Their PowerPoint is simple, it's clean. It's probably hard to see in this video, but in person it was easy to see. It wasn't too many slides or overwhelming. They didn't read off their PowerPoint, which is a huge thing as well. I also want to hit on, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me share the screen with y'all one more time. There's one more thing I want to show y'all, and I'll hit on that when I show y'all this. This was one of the examples I used earlier. I just wanted to show y'all a PowerPoint, and this could be made into posters really easily, so you kind of know what I mean when I say less is more. So this was like their kind of, this went along with their catchy attention getter. And then you don't have to have this page or this slide. And then this is kind of their title slide, the name of their presentation and their names. Here's their purpose slide, or their 3 key points. So their 3 key points were to educate others on what human trafficking is. So that's probably going to be the first paragraph of their script. To learn how to prevent human trafficking and to identify human trafficking victims. Again, simple, clean, not too overwhelming, but it helps the presenters know where they're at and keep them in line with their script for their presentation. And then here's kind of their first point. What is human trafficking? They have a few key points. Less words is better. It also made sure that they weren't going to read directly off their PowerPoint. Here's their second key point. Their third, how they ended it again with kind of a catchy ending. They summarized their 3 key points. And this is what I want to talk about, resources. In both educational presentation and public speaking, after you do your summary and kind of your, either for educational presentation, a cute, catchy ending, or for public speaking, a thought-provoking ending, you then say, my resources were, or our resources were, and list the resources you use to make your presentation. The resources are important. I would say you need to have at least 4 would be my go-to. Maybe if you're a junior doing an educational presentation, it could be 3. But especially on the senior level, and if you're trying to be really competitive, they need to be, some of them, you need to make sure they're research-based organizations, like the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. We know that's not just a random blog or an opinion website. We know that's an actual department who's knowledgeable, research-based. The United National Office on Drugs and Crime, again, research-based. CNN is obviously a news source, but that can sometimes be have bias and not always be research-based. So make sure some of them are research-based. .org websites are usually good, or edu websites. Going to collegiate research websites are good. Typically, AgriLife has resources on something related to your topic. You can typically find a Texas A&M AgriLife Extension resource. Those are also good to have in there. If you have questions on where to find research for your topic or for your educational presentation or your public speech, that's something you can reach out to your county extension agent for, and they can help you getting those resources. They can also help you with an outline as well, so that you and your kiddo can then go home and really write and put the script together, and they're willing to practice with you and give you ideas on props. Another thing I wanted to hit on props and visuals, if there's something simple, not a full-blown demonstration, but if there are simple steps that you can demonstrate in educational presentation, I'm talking strictly educational presentation, I think those are great to have some, maybe a few hands-on things that you can demonstrate or show or have a prop to show without getting too over the top and without it being distracting and taking up too much time from your actual presentation. I do think having props or something hands-on that you can demonstrate or do makes a really interesting and strong educational presentation. One more thing I wanted to hit on the public speaking contest. I know many of our high schoolers double up with FFA and 4-H, which is great. A lot of your FFA LDE speeches would be really easy to transform into a 4-H public speech. So that's just an idea there as well. But I just wanted to share with y'all a little bit about 2 of my favorite contests. If y'all have questions, again, reach out to your county extension agent. They probably have other examples just like I had to show y'all. Make sure you're getting your information from the D1-4H website. And these will be due, the video that you've uploaded to YouTube will have to be shared in your registration. The link will have to be shared by April 7th. So you can start working on these now. Thank y'all. Have a great day.